My name is Ryan Hopson. Please just call me Ryan. No need to stand on formality here. I have been an instructor for, with Manhattan Prep for 3 or 4 years now, but I've been teaching for well over 10 years. I've taught everything from science to kindergartners to GRE, SAT, and LSATs, all the way up into English as a second language for adults, both for graduate students and for adults who are here in the States for other reasons. And it's my pleasure to be working with you all here tonight. I really get a lot of joy out of helping people beat these tests. I feel like they should never, ever, ever stand between anyone and the future that they want for themselves and the grad school that they want to attend. So with that in mind, I'm going to do my very best to move your scores here this evening. I'd really like to know a little bit about you folks as well. So in the chat there, do me a favor, don't hit send yet. Don't hit send yet, but I want to know two things. I want to know where in the world you are, and I want to know what kind of a program you're applying to. Now, don't hit send yet. I'll see when everybody's typed something in, and I'll have you all hit send at once. Where in the world are you, and what kind of a program are you thinking about applying to? All right, send them over. Let's see what you got. Oh, no way. Health Physics Masters. Georgia, I used to work in neuroimaging. Fantastic. Fantastic. Got a couple of MBAs. This is good. We've actually got a much more varied group than I'm used to seeing. I love that. I love that. Yeah, for Georgia, or for any of you that are more scientifically inclined, if you ever get the urge to stop by PubMed and look for R. Hopson, I've got a couple papers that I collaborated on there on neuroscience. I'm not the R. Hopson publishing on prairie dog habitat, though I'm sure it's fantastic research. It's just not me. All right, cool, good. One of the things that I like about some of the answers that we got there is that tonight I want to focus on a topic that has to do with the quant section. I didn't see anybody who's looking to apply to art history programs or anything of that sort where they're not going to matter, where they're not going to pay so much attention to the quant section of your test. Seems like for all of you this is going to be very, very relevant. The problems that we're going to be working from tonight are going to come from this book right here, 5-pound book of GRE Practice Problems. If you are enrolled in one of our full courses, or if you end up enrolling in one of our full courses, this is of course included with it. Oh, by the way, I see Lauren joined us too. Lauren, is that you from Monday and Thursday as well? Hey, fantastic to see you. We got Christine here as well, as long as a bunch of other folks who are new. Alex, I don't believe you're the Alex that's in my Monday, Wednesday class, right? Good, good, good. Well, not good. He's a great student, but I'm happy to have you here as well. This book that we're going to be working from tonight is literally 5 pounds of GRE problems. It's one of the densest tomes of study material you will ever come across. It's pretty fantastic. It's our only book that has ever topped, well, not topped, but has ever cracked Amazon's top 100 books. Not just textbooks, but books just in general. It's one of our biggest sellers. It's a great resource. That's enough of a plug, though. Let's move into some material. What I want to talk about tonight is I want to talk about what we do when we're faced with a problem on the test that we don't know how to solve, or when we're faced with a problem on the test that just seems way, way, way too difficult. And then I'm going to show you one of my favorite examples of problems like that. It's a type of problem known as variables in choices. And then we'll wrap things up here. So there's this famous saying that exists in the boxing world. It goes, everybody has a plan until they get hit. And the GRE can be like that too. I've seen it happen with students time and time again, especially once they take one of my classes and they start doing better, and they start getting placed into a harder second section, and they start seeing some of these more difficult problems. And they go from just really rolling along, doing just fine, making progress on this test, to suddenly hitting this wall, where they just don't know what to do with these difficult problems. And one of the most important things you can do is to plan for that eventuality. What are you going to do? Not just with your studying, not just with your practice, but test day, when all of a sudden you get hit with this problem that you just don't know how to start. You don't know how to solve it. What do you think? Brainstorm with me. Up until now, what have you done when you've hit a problem like that? And no need to wait on me. As soon as you got it, send it on over. I love that. Eliminate some wrong answers. Yes, indeed. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit here with one of the problems that I've picked out for us to look at together. I like that. I like that. Eliminate. Ooh. Try from the given options. That's another technique, and that's one that we refer to as back solving. When you take some of the answer choices they gave you and you try to work with them, see if you can make one of them fit the problem. Very good. Moving on. That is a very powerful technique for the GRE. All questions within a section count for the same number of points. So one of the most powerful techniques that you have as a test taker is just skipping the ones where you're not going to get any points anyway. Don't waste your time there. Move on to something easier and invest your time in that problem instead. It's a really good insight, Marley. That's very important. There's just one thing that I would add to that, Marley, and I'll ask this to everybody, but I wonder if the students taking my full course right now in particular will be able to answer this. If you hit a problem that you can't answer, and you know that you need to skip it, what do you do first? Before you move on, what do you do? Yes, very good. On some standardized tests, there is a penalty for getting it wrong that goes above and beyond leaving it blank. The SAT used to be that way. It's not anymore, but it used to be. The GRE is not like that. If you leave it blank, or if you make a guess, in the GRE's eyes, that's the exact same thing. So why not at least give yourself a shot at getting it right before you move on? Always, always, always take a guess. Sometimes, Corey, on the GRE, for those of you who don't know this, you can mark a question to come back to it. The only problem is you don't want to be marking too many. If it's a problem that you know that you're just not going to be able to solve no matter how much time you spend, or that you think you won't be able to solve no matter how much time you spend, I wouldn't even bother marking it. I would save that for those 3 or 4 problems that you know you can get back to and you know you can get some points on. So I wouldn't disagree with you totally there, Corey. I would just kind of add on to that. Does that make sense? Cool. And then I'm going to do this in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy speak. Don't panic. Yeah, Christine, 100%. Try not to let it derail you. Try not to let it throw you off your game and impact questions that are coming down the road here. It's actually something that we'll talk about a lot in the full course in session 8, when we talk about practice and strategies and how to keep moving your score in the right direction even after the course ends. This is all good stuff. I'm really, really happy with some of the answers that you guys gave me here. You've got a pretty solid plan to start with. I think that these are all pretty awesome. If any of you didn't have these already in your plan for what to do when you hit a roadblock, I would take a second and make a note of these. In fact, I'm curious. If there's something here that you hadn't thought of yet that you're going to incorporate into your strategies, just do me a favor. Give me a quick +1 there in the chat. I see a couple people typing, but I don't see as many +1s. Well, let me add something to this. Let me add something to this. You should always, always, always have a couple backup strategies in your pocket. For when the going gets tough. For those students that are in my full class, you guys know how much I stress these strategies and how much I believe that these, even more so than the content that we learn, is going to be what moves your score. I see it all the time where students who take my class will hit this plateau, often around the high 150s, low 160s, where no matter how much they learn and how much they study, they just can't get past it. And the reason is that that's the plateau that you reach just by being good at math. To get beyond that, you need to work on being good at taking the test. And that's one of the things we're going to focus on here tonight. All right, so let's try a few. There's a strategy in particular that I want to introduce to you guys tonight, but I don't want to do it yet. I want to give you a chance, first of all, to kind of get a feel for some of these problems that I think are particularly difficult. We're going to kind of ease into them with one that's solvable but tough, and then kind of ramp up the difficulty from there. So what I'm going to do for each one of these is I'm going to give you 2 minutes. If you don't have time to get it done all the way, don't panic, don't worry about it. We're going to be coming back to talk about it. But if you do think you get to an answer, I want you to go ahead and poll it in for me. I'm going to set the polling type to A, B, C, D, E. And I'm also going to set it so nobody else can see your answers, but I can see all of them. All right. 2 minutes on the clock. Here we go. I will say again, poll in your answers when you think you have it. Do not send anything in the chat. All right, I got some answers in on that one. Let's try ramping up the difficulty. Take a shot at this. Again, 2 minutes on the clock. If you think you get that answer, go ahead and poll it in. Please don't chat it to me. Please send it to me using the poll. All right, good. Some answers, but not as many this time. And a little bit more variety, too, so we're getting a little bit tougher. Let's try one more before we talk about the strategy that I want to mention here. Go ahead and take a shot at this one. All right, that's time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and set the chat back to public. I had it set to private, so if you've been talking in one of those private rooms with me, please come on back to the main room there so we can discuss this together. All three of these questions that we just worked on have something in common. All three of them have something that make them a little bit different from your average GRE question. And it's these answer choices that we're given here. Most frequently, the answers that we're given are going to be actual values. 5, 6, -1, the square root of 2. But every so often, in order to make things as difficult as they can, the test makers will take away those standard, normal-looking answers, and instead, they're going to give us choices that have variables in them. And I want to talk about a technique you can use for tackling this particularly difficult problem type. It's a strategy called Pick for Vic. And Vic, all that stands for, is variables in choices. There we go. The technique is pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to pick a number, or numbers if need be, to represent the variables in the problem. Then, you will take those values you have just picked. You will feed them back into the problem, and you will just plug and chug, generate a target. So that if X and Y or N or T or whatever were equal to those numbers that you picked, then what would be the solution to that problem? Now here's the trick. From there, you take those numbers you picked and you plug them into the answer choices. And you test to see which one of them matches the target that you chose or that you calculated. Let me show you what I mean. It's really fairly straightforward. For this first problem here, and quite a few of you were able to solve it, and if you could, very, very good. Strong work if you were able to solve this algebraically. In fact, I'll ask some of you to show us what you did algebraically in a minute here. But tell me, if we were going to pick some easy numbers here to work with, what could we pick as values for X and Y? Good, I like that. Now, oftentimes, it's going to be the case that you want to make sure that if you're picking two numbers, you pick different numbers. After all, if we had an answer choice that looked like this, and we picked, and another one that looked like this, and we picked values that matched, then we wouldn't be able to choose between these two. Now, in this particular question, it's not going to matter so much, but I still want to practice a good, strong technique here. So let's pick something else for Y. Now, Corey, if you were suggesting 1/2, I would disagree with you just because it's a little bit difficult to work with fractions. It's not a bad one, but it's not the easiest. But if you're suggesting that we pick 1 and 2, ooh, that's a good one too. Or 1 and 0, well, I think that that's a great, great choice. In fact, let's work with 0, Christine, so I think that's very clever and one of the easiest numbers that we can pick here. Okay, so now we plug our numbers in and we calculate a target. I've got 1 squared plus 2 times 1 times 0 plus 0 squared all over 2 times 1 plus 0, the quantity squared. If you guys follow me on how I set that up, just give me a quick +1 there in the chat. Let me know that you're on board. All right, cool. Straightforward so far. Now, I simplify this. Up top, I've got 1 plus 0 plus 0. That's going to be 1. Down bottom, I've got 2 times 1 squared. That's going to be 2. And now I take my 1 and my 0, and I plug it into my answer choices to test. Now this one's a little unusual, because we do have some actual values in quantity A and quantity B. But you always have to test all the answer choices, because sometimes, depending on what you picked, more than one answer choice will work. It's frustrating when that happens, but it can happen. So let's test the rest of them. Does answer choice C, if we plug in x equals 1 and y equals 0, does answer choice C give us our target? Nope, absolutely not. 1 over 1 is 1. That's no good. How about answer choice D? Absolutely not. Answer choice E? Yeah, just keep those no's rolling in. Absolutely not. And if we look at our real values, well, obviously answer choice A doesn't match. And so the only answer that works, the correct answer, is answer choice B. Congratulations to those of you who got that one right. Quite a few of you did. If you got it right, I grant you 5 GRE points that unfortunately don't count on the real test, but you've earned them nonetheless. Strong work. Did anybody do it a similar way? Did anybody pick some values for this problem? If not, if you did it a different way, I'm interested to hear how. I think I know how, but I'm interested to hear. Yes. Zena, very good. You are absolutely correct. The top part of this equation is what we call a special product. If you guys solve it the same as Zena and Georgia there, give me a quick +1 in the chat. Fantastic and very well done. This is something that we talk about in the full course. It's something that I would hope you could recognize by test day, that this x squared plus 2xy plus y squared is really equal to x plus y, the quantity squared. And if you know that, you can see that this and this will cancel out. Very good, very good. And that's one of the reasons I often talk about pick for Vic as a backup strategy. It's never going to be the only way to solve these problems, but it's going to be a good way to solve them, first of all, if you get stuck, like might have happened to some of you on this problem. But also sometimes, even on a problem that you could solve without it, it's going to be more efficient. On the GRE, it's not just about getting it right. It's about getting it right as quickly as possible and by expending as little energy as possible. The GRE is this math and verbal marathon, and so we've got to make sure that we're pacing ourselves. And this pick for Vic technique is one good way to do that. Let me show you an example with this other problem here. It can be, Max. It's not always a great one. In fact, I'm going to show you an example of one here where it's particularly not. Let's take a look back at this guy here. Now, quite a few of you got to an answer on this one. I'm interested to know, how'd you do it? How'd you get to the answer here? Fantastic. You multiplied out all those brackets and you solved it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's exactly what the test makers want you to do for a problem like this, is to say, okay, here we go. X squared minus 4x plus 4, x, oh my goodness, minus 2x plus 1, and so on and so on and so on. And then you start to simplify. And then you start to simplify. And that's one way to solve it. It's a very valid way to solve it. But I'm going to argue with you that even if you're good at algebra, even if you feel like you could do that in your sleep, for one thing, it's going to take you a little while to do all of those, to expand all of those expressions. And number two, I'm going to argue that it gives you a lot of opportunities to make silly mistakes. Did that happen to anybody while they were working on this problem? Did anybody, as they were expanding these things out and then simplifying, go down to the answer choices and go, uh-oh, the solution that I came up with just isn't down here? It's frustrating. It happens a lot, and it's easy to do. It's easy to do. So let's talk about how we can simplify this math. Now, I want to pick a value for x, but first I want to talk about that question that I just had from Max about picking 0. If I pick x equals 0, look at what happens when I plug that into my answer choices. A is going to be 0. B is going to be 10. But C is also going to be 10. And D is going to be 10. And E is going to be 10. So we've actually made it really difficult for ourselves to decide which of these answers might be the correct one. Does that make sense? Good. So what else could we pick for x? 3 is a possibility. I think we can make it even easier. Actually, 3 is pretty easy. Anything else? Any other spitball with me here? What other suggestions do you have? I like 1. 1 is a nice, easy number here. I'm going to say x is equal to 1. Okay. If x is equal to 1, kind of a speed drill here, guys. If x is equal to 1, what is this equal to? Very good. And this next expression, what is this going to be equal to? Very good. Moving right along, the third one. Fantastic, strong mental work. Strong mental math so far, guys. Good job. How about this fourth one? Very good. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. And the final one. Very good. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. We add them all up, and our target is 15. Okay, next step. We know that our target is 1. Plug it in and test and see if you can find an answer choice that works. If you can, go ahead and pull in that answer for me, not the chat. Go ahead and pull it in when you find an answer choice that works. Excellent. Everyone who has pulled in has gotten this problem correct. It's got to be the only one that works is answer choice B. Like I just got somebody who had an arithmetic error there right at the end. It's got to be answer choice B. If we plug in x equals 1, A will be 5, B will be 15, C is 11, D is 21, and E is 9. The only one that matches my target is answer choice B. Nicely done. Okay, so does that make sense? Even to those of you who were able to solve this by expanding, what do you think about picking for Vic here? Oh, I still had the chat on private. I'm sorry. Yeah, way faster, way less mentally taxing. Save that brain power for problems that have to be hard. do this one the easy way. Nice job, guys. Very good so far. Okay. Then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a chance to tackle that last problem that we looked at on your own. Pick some values. Now be careful. You can't just assign G and M. You have to make sure that you follow the rules the problem sets up here. And then go ahead and test those values and see if you can pick for Vic. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes on the clock here. When you think you have your answer, go ahead and pull it in. And even if you solve this one the first way, or the first time around, try it one more time with picking for Vic and see which one ends up being easier for you. I don't have answers in from everybody yet. And for those of you who I don't have an answer in for yet, I want to help you get started on this. So here's what I'd like to do. In the chat, guys, give me some suggestions. How old should I make Gunter? $25. I like 25. That's a good one. Ooh, be careful with 10, Zena. It's not necessarily going to give you anything wrong. It's just that Mason is now twice as old as Gunter was 10 years ago. That's going to do something weird. So we have to do 10 minus 10 equals 0, which means Mason is 0, which may do some weird things to our problem. Oh, I see. 10 years ago. I gotcha. So Gunter would be 20 now. That one can be a little tricky too. Not wrong necessarily, but tricky, because if Gunter is 20, then Mason is going to be how old? Yeah, not necessarily wrong, just sometimes these problems do weird things when you plug in the same variable twice. Yeah. Not wrong necessarily, but can be tricky. So let's work with 25. Let's work with 25. Or you know what, actually, I saw someone suggested 15. I'm going to use that just because that's the number that I used when I solved this problem this way the first time. If Gunter is 15 years old, how old is Mason? Very good. And we're trying to find the sum of their ages 4 years from now. So how old will Gunter be in 4 years? And how old will Mason be in 4 years? Oops. And that is some terrible addition right there. Sorry, guys, I almost sent you down a very wrong road. There we go. Oh, Max, Mason is twice as old as Gunter was 10 years ago. So Gunter minus 10 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Good question. I'm glad you asked clarification there. Yeah, no problem. All right. Now that you have a target, I'm going to give you another minute on the clock here. I want to see if I can get an answer in from everybody. Plug in the numbers that we've picked, the answer choices, and see which one of them will give us our target of 33. Nice. I've got some unanimously correct answers pulled in here. Very strong work, everybody. Obviously, answer choice A. Well, you tell me. Answer choice A, we can rule out clearly. What are some other ones that you looked at right away without even doing a lot of math and went, well, that's wrong? Tell me in the chat. E, yeah, E is going to give me some weird decimal. That's got to be wrong. D is going to be negative. That's wildly wrong. Absolutely. Then answer choice B, 3 times 15 is 45, plus 28, much too high. Got to be answer choice C. And again, and I've stressed this with all of them, it's not the only way to solve this. How many of you tried to do it with algebra the first time that you looked at this problem? Give me a quick +1 in the chat there if that's the way you did it the first time around. Absolutely. And you can, and that works. Just it's another one where translating it is tough. And then you have to try not to make any arithmetic mistakes. And quite a few of you made it to the right answer, which was awesome to see. But remember, we're not just about getting it right. We're about getting it right as efficiently as possible. All right, good job. How are you guys feeling about this technique? Scale of 0 to 10. 0 is I still have no idea what I'm doing with this. 10 is like, yeah, I feel like I could do this if I needed to on some homework problems. Wow, look at that consistency there. A class average of right around a 7.5. All right. Well, I want to point out one thing to you here. And this has to do with that advice that somebody gave us earlier with picking out, eliminating when we get stuck. This technique isn't perfect. It's good. It's a very strong one, but it isn't perfect. For a problem like this, for example, I would probably shy away from it. Why? Just looking at this, why do you think I'd be hesitant to use pick for Vic here? They're off the chart. If you try to actually calculate those exponents, it's going to break the calculator that they give you or break your brain and waste your time if you're trying to do it mentally. That said, even though we can't necessarily get all the way to an answer by using pick for Vic here, we could eliminate some answers. What would be a good thing to pick? Or a couple good values to pick if we wanted to quickly eliminate some answers. One is nice and easy. In fact, even with all these crazy exponents, we could pick 1 for both of these and see where that gets us. If we pick 1 for X and we pick 1 for Y, which 2 answer choices can we eliminate? Good. A and D. Paula, why would I be able to do this? Well, I can always pick whatever I want, right? And I know I've given you the advice not to usually pick 2 things that are the same, but in this case, because we're just trying to eliminate, it's okay to try it out. Does that make sense? Yeah, good question and good catch. Way to keep me honest on that, because you're right that I did just tell you not to do exactly what I just did. But that's because we're not getting all the way to an answer here. But look what we've done to our odds of guessing correctly. We have already gone from 1 in 5 to 1 in 3, from a 20% chance to around a 33% chance of guessing this answer right, just by doing that tiny little bit of math. Now, if you're interested in solving this problem out all the way, you can find it in the 5-pound book. I'm not going to go through it here with you right now, only because I want to focus a little bit more on this technique, and I've got a couple more problems picked out here for you guys to work on. Absolutely, Rhonda. That's 100% the way you need to solve this. You need to find different ways to break this thing up into its components and then simplify. It's a difference of two squares a couple different ways. But like I said, I'm not going to go into the details here, so I want to turn you guys loose on a couple other problems. Take a look at this one. I will give you a little bit of advice. Start by picking for X and Y. And then solve for the rest of these values. Solve this triangle first and then solve for the rest of it. I'll give you a couple minutes on the clock for this one. I'm going to give you 3 minutes on the clock. When you think you have your answer, I want you to go ahead and please poll it in. In fact, you know what, guys? Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page here, let's pick some numbers first together. I am going to suggest, you could pick anything you wanted, but I'm going to suggest that X equals 30 and Y equals 60. Why did I pick those two numbers in particular? Well, they're easy to work with for one thing, but why else? Yeah, I've got this 90-degree triangle here, and that means that I'm sticking to my laws of the triangles. My rules of the triangle say this has to equal 180. Okay, now that we're all on the same page with that, go for it. See if you can calculate the rest of these values, and we'll talk about this one together when I have some answers in. Remember, please don't send them in the chat. When you think you have your answers, please poll them in. Oops, sorry guys. So please come on back to the main chat room if you haven't done so already. I want to talk about this one together. We know that X is 30, we know that Y is 60 because we picked those. But let's fill in our other values. Given that we know the values of X and Y, what's going to be the value of A? Excellent, Corey, yes. 16 and 20, very good. How about this angle right here? What's the value of this guy? $40, good. This one? Excellent, which means this guy's got to be 75 right in here. And so what's my value for B? Excellent. Very good. Everybody with me on those values? Give me a quick +1 in the chat there if you got that far. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, we know that we need to fill in B and Y. B is equal to 105. Y is equal to 60. If we plug those values into our answer choices, what value should we get back out again? Very good. We're looking for A. We know that A is equal to 120. Cool. So we go through and test. Are there any of these that you can eliminate right away? Way too big, both of them. Very good, very good. Very good, very good. We've also got one that's way too small here with answer choice B. That's going to be 105 minus 120 plus 45. Again, much too small. It's not going to be anywhere close to 120. So we're left with 2. 105 minus 60 is 45. 45 plus 65 is 110. 45 plus 75 is 120. And let me recommend, if you have trouble with that arithmetic, keep in mind that the GRE does give you a calculator. How easy would it be on the day of the test to just plug into your calculator 105 minus 60 plus 65? Oops. It'll keep you from making that simple mistake that I made just there. So we can eliminate answer choice B as well. And we are left with only answer choice B. And that's it. What I'd like you guys to do is, as you're studying this week, as you're doing your practice tests, as you're going through your homework assignments, as you're going through whatever books you may be practicing with, keep an eye out for problems where you can pick for Vic. They are very easy to identify. It's one of the easiest strategies to say, hey, I should use this one. Tell me, just a quick sanity check here in the chat, guys. How will you recognize when you can pick for Vic? How do you know when you can use this strategy? Yeah, there's literally variables in the choices. Ah, Rhonda. Variables in choices. Fantastic. Very good. That's how you'll know, and that's how you know when you can use this strategy. Guys, I hope this was useful for you. If so, I would encourage you to take a look at some of the other classes that Manhattan Prep has available. We're always doing these free GRE hour-long sessions, but in addition to that, all of our online classes, session 1 is always free. So if you'd like to get some more general background about the GRE, learn a little bit about how to tackle quantitative comparison problems, and also get a little bit more insight into how to start working through reading comprehension, which I know can be a very difficult problem type. Signing up for a free session 1 is an excellent way to go about it. I have a few classes forming now, so if you guys were interested in doing some more studying with me, of course, I'd always love to work with you again. My name again is Ryan Hopson, and you can find me easily on the Manhattan Prep website, and I'll have a full list of all the courses that I have coming up. There are classes in person, Rhonda, but there are also ones online. I'll tell you, for our GRE Prep Hour, I don't get to do as much interactivity as I like to in class. In class, I like to have people highlighting things and circling things and hopping on the microphone with me. Because we don't have a lot of time here, I don't have a lot of time to show you guys how to use all those tools, so it's not as interactive. But if you're interested, there are online, in-person classes available as well. Fantastic, guys. Hey, any questions about anything? Oh, Max, I'll show you in just a second here. We'll go back and take a look at that one. Any questions about anything else before we wrap up? My pleasure. You had some good questions, Max. Happy to work with you there. Thanks, guys. It's been great working with you. I hope this is a great tip. I hope it gets you some more points on that GRE. I would love to see you all beat this test. And like I said, I hope I have the chance to work with you again sometime. Best of luck, everybody.